as the CEO of the company, I would assume that anyone who has made it to be promoted into that role can actually do the job. So that means that if there are micromanagement kind of issues where suddenly they're asking for your input, then there are pieces of your company culture that have not become clear for them, that are not safe for them, and that are not expressed in a way that really allows them to know what would you do and what are the parameters around what you would do, right? So this is beyond company mission statement. This is beyond, it really goes down into values, right? Because if they understand your values and the values of the company, then they're able to make a decision that may not be exactly the same as yours, but will be in alignment with the way you think and the way you believe the world should work and the values that you want to bring into the world through this company that you have. And so that really speaks to the initial part of like, why can't they act on their own without getting me involved? Why is it always escalating to me, you know? But then there's the next piece of it that's like, and why are they at each other, right? And my experience with that, and this really goes to the core of the way that I work with people. When I work with people, we do not just work on systems and we do not just work on soft skills. We work on both together. There's an integration that has to happen. It's so important that we understand that we are not just human and we are not just systems, that we are a business system with living, breathing humans in it. So there has to be a balance. There has to be a way for it to work together. And also that means we need skills both that are systematic skills, that are logical and make sense and are repeatable and can be scalable. And also we need skills that are human based, that are knowing how to deal with emotions, knowing when emotions should be escalated and not escalated, understanding exactly how humans behave, because of course we all behave differently every time we come to work, right? Because there's other things going on in life. And what the skills are that our people and our leadership need in order to really work within a system that supports them. So that's the first piece of that. And then the second piece of it is, my experience is that anytime I had two people particularly from different departments, going on and on about this one said this and this one did that, and they screwed up the sale and it's their fault, and my commissions are being right, and like this, right? When there's some problem, the customer was yelling at me because the sales staff didn't do this, whatever the problem is. And that is a real example from a company that I ran, right? Where sales and delivery had to not just be on the same page, because they have totally different skill sets, right? So they're not ever going to be in a position where they can just speak and it's gonna make sense to the other person, right? Because they have completely different skill sets, and they don't need to have the same skill sets, but they do need to have a system that supports who they are and how they need to communicate to the next department. And so that's where the failure always was. There always, when there was a personal problem where people were saying he doesn't like me and she messed it up on purpose, right? When there was a personal problem like that, every single time it was a system problem, right? There was some piece of the system that when you scaled it, when you made it amped up, when we tried to run more sales through it, right? Because we had good marketing and we said, okay, now we're ready. We're taking off, right? Here we go. And that's when the problems, right? The amplification show the problems. So that's really a system problem, but it's also a system problem that has to adjust on both ends to meet the needs of the humans that are operating the system. This is a great question. And the answer is a tough pill to swallow. If you have communicated the values that you have and that the company has, and your people are still not acting within those values, that means you're not actually acting on those values. What they see you do, how they see you behave with other people, how they see those closest to you in the organizational circle treat you and you treat them is not in alignment with what you've told them in meetings. That's what that means, right? And there are pieces like, right, some people come in, so that's the one piece. Let's take a step back for a second. That is the one piece. If you're not getting the communication across, it's not because you haven't said it, then it's because they haven't seen it and they're not experiencing it. Now, the other piece of the puzzle is that if they come in with their own values and their own set of this is how it should be done, and they understand this corporation and they're going to have to go with the values of the company, and they've been spoken to about it, right? So there's been some adjusting that everybody has done here with that particular person. Then at that point, what's happening is that either don't respect you and they're in the wrong role, they're in the wrong company, maybe, or, and this is really, you got to go deep into this before you come to like, that person doesn't belong here, right? Because most people take the job, they actually belong there. They are a match, even though they don't know they're a match, they're not ready to be a match, whatever that is. But what it does mean is that the people who are directly interfacing with that person are not actually holding the values of the company. So it's a very tricky line, right? Because we want to go like people, you know, they're hard to take. They do whatever they want. We don't have control over them. I wish there were just 50 mini-me's. No, you really don't. Because the value that an additional person adds to your company in terms of the richness of what you can deliver in a company and how it's delivered and how it functions together is immense. And we have to be one organism. So there's a lot of process that you can go through, and there are absolutely techniques that you need to be working with your people using, or you need to hire someone to work with your people using those same techniques so that you have a certain level of soft skill available for that person, right? And for all of the people in your company. But there's a long way before they don't fit, right? And so that's an important piece for you to really take in and take responsibility for that. This is where you need a mirror. This is where a good coach will really be able to hold up the mirror for you. And there is a process of evaluation that you can learn from a really good coach where you'll be able to see yourself in a different light. And this is something that most people don't admit to, right? But knowing the questions to ask yourself and knowing how to find the answers to those questions is a skill. And if you don't have it, which most of us don't, right? Self-aware is not a description of somebody who knows how to accurately diagnose their own behavior, right? Self-aware is baseline. So there's a system where you work with awareness, alert, becoming alert. So that there's a whole piece of that and what that means in terms of self-assessment. And then the detachment of like, how do you process that information? And how can you look at it even though it is you? And how do you not step into the role of like, yeah, but I know that I should have said that because that person was, needed a what for, right? So there's that next piece is that detachment of being able to, and now you get to a place where you can actually be what in spiritual terms we call amused, right? Meaning able to simply look, to simply be present, and to be unaffected emotionally by the answers that you find there. And once you've really, really embodied that practice, and there are some neurological tools that will help you do that, that I work with clients all the time on, then you have a new process of self-assessment and of behavior diagnosis for yourself. And you really are far beyond what we normally call self-aware. I work within a system of applied neuroperformance techniques. And the reason that I talk about it as if it is a larger topic is because asking like, okay, but what's the one exercise that I can do so that when I'm in the moment, I can not behave a way I don't want to behave, right? It reduces your ability to actually understand that you are a whole human body. And when you understand that you're a whole human body, there's biology and neurology involved in every process you do in the world, everything you do, right? There is never a moment when you are not a biological being. And so you are impacted by your biology all the time. So when we go like, oh, but what's the one little thing? I could give you something, sure, but it will work for you or it won't work for you. And it's outside the context of how do I run this spacesuit that I'm in a way where I get to experience what I want to experience in the world. I get to communicate the way that I want to communicate in the world. People get to receive me in a way that I mean for them to receive me, right? So I'm not just a triggering machine, which sometimes happens, right? We walk through the world and we go like, I don't know, they just all get upset when I talk to them, okay? Or we try to hold ourselves back so much that we're not really in our lives, we're not experiencing our lives, we're not enjoying our lives, but we're really trying hard to communicate. Or to get something done, or to wrangle a group of people, like leaders in your company, to behave a certain way. So when you try to bring it down to one thing that you can do, the issue here is that it's a little bit like going to a doctor and saying, well, I have a pain over here and I have a pain over here and I have pain in my knee and my hip and oh yeah, my back hurts sometimes and there's something going on with my digestion I don't quite understand and my jaw hurts but it's not all the time and sometimes this elbow is a little creaky, but not all the time. I don't really know what's going on over there. What is the one thing that I can do to make it better? Right? There is not one answer because that doctor has to do the diagnosis. And so if you're going to be your own doctor in this instance, then you've got to learn the skills of the diagnosis, or you've got to hire somebody who's really, really good at it and already has an outside perspective. And then they will give you tools that work not just in the overall so that you can run your spacesuit better, more to your liking, more to your effectiveness, but also so that you can make it through moments that are very, very difficult. So I'll give you an example. There was a time when I was both running the company and acting as a manager of a location. It was crazy, right? But for a short period of time, that's what had to happen, and that's what happened. And so there was this constant pull of executive function into operational management, escalated customer management, all the problems, right? And so going between those two things was massively difficult. Normally people cannot do it because you can't be in the middle of a creative thought or an executive thought or a leadership thought, right? A high level thought where you're actually able to understand the full functionality of your company, the full goals of your company, and speak to the person who's right in front of you with a very specific problem. And yet that's what I had to do. So if you ask me like, well, how did you do that? I could tell you the 3 tools that I used to do that. And it might help you, right? It's great. I'll be happy to tell you about that. However, it's not going to help you long term, because what I'm not talking about when I say that is that I learned how to use those tools outside of the emergency. So when I practiced them outside of any kind of emergency, my body learned to respond to them. And then when I practiced them inside the stressful moment of my day, they were effective because I knew how, with my brain and my body, to ask to do something by using a specific tool and to have my body respond to that. So, so you got to have a process. You have to have a system. And that's really where I've come to after all these years. I mean, I have been coaching for 18 years, and I was CEO for 14 years and worked on Broadway for 13 years before that. So there are, all of these pieces of experience have brought me to a place where I understand that you don't have to have one particular system that you work in, right? You don't have to be like, oh, I'm the yoga person, or oh, I like to meditate, whatever that is. But you do have to have a system that works for you and that has the appropriate tools for the issues that you face on a daily basis, and has the appropriate systems behind it, right? Because you're not just wanting to live your life. If you were just wanting to live your life and be happy, then that would be plenty. But if you want to actually be effective running your company, be uber successful, really get the thing that you want to do going in the world, and get from where you are to that next level that you probably keep hitting your head on the ceiling of, right? Because that's what happens, is that we start to grow the company. We're like, I got this. I know exactly how to do it. All I have to do is put out this advertising or marketing, change the way that the company is branded a little bit, and then the people are going to go for it, and we're ready. Except that that's not how you get ready, right? The whole back end also has to be ready, and the leadership has to be new, has to be in the new place, understanding the new problems before they exist. Or what ends up happening is people, really good employees, go like, yeah, I've had enough. I'm going. I got a job someplace else. I'm good. Goodbye. Or, and you'll see a lot of that. Or you'll see people's performance take a dive, where suddenly they don't know how to do their jobs, even though they used to know how to do their jobs. And that really has to do with system overload, or systems not actually being supportive enough to bear the weight of the level of business that you're doing. And you'll call it bad luck. You'll call it like, oh yeah, that was terrible luck. That happened, right? Yeah, we lost that location. Yeah, we had some tax problem. Oh yeah, we lost a bunch of people. That was really difficult, right? And so you have to, this is the piece where you get ready, and then you get the upgraded systems to support that next level. The value of a coach is immense, and I appreciate you asking about it. Absolutely. If you try to figure all this out on your own, it will probably take you the same amount of time it took me, which is decades, and probably the same amount of mistakes and problems, and then successes, right? So if you want to go faster and farther, then having someone who knows the way is really, really important. And having someone who has studied all of the ways to actually enact what I call the applied neural performance techniques, right? To really hone in on the parts that matter for business, the parts that matter for you, for your personal self in your business, and the parts that matter to transmit to your leaders and to your sales teams and to all of the parts of your business. Each piece of that is a little different. And that's why I call it applied neural performance techniques. We want our neurology to perform at a certain level in a certain way under certain conditions. And that's absolutely is going to take you the same amount of decades it took me, right? So if you want to go faster, work with a coach. If you want to be better at it, work with someone who already learned it and can teach you how to do it quickly and easily and deeply, right? Somebody who knows how to say, this is the part that I missed or that most people miss, and that you need to make sure you get this nook and cranny of this particular tool or this particular way of thinking about something, right? Because we're talking about neurology and we're talking about it like it's only biological. And when we talk, humans talk about biology, we think it's like, hormones and eating and, right? We think it's all of the other biological responses that we get in our body, but it is also our thoughts, because that's the neurology piece of it, right? And so we do also have to learn a new framework for whatever that piece of stuckness is in you. And the reason I talk to you like it's unique to you is because you had your childhood and I had my childhood, and there's probably some overlap, and they had their childhood. And so everybody's triggers are different. Lots of people's triggers are different. Not everybody has the exact, some people have a similar trigger. But the point is that what is upsetting to some people is not upsetting to other people. And what stands in the way of running a company in peace without overwhelm is really different from leader to leader to leader. And that being said, so that's the thought piece of it that has to shift. However, how we actually make new neural pathways and how we help ourselves to make those neural pathways is the same, right? So that's where the system comes in. So it's the same duality that we were talking about with your company, where the leader and the people and the systems all have to be in coordination. The same thing is true when you're working within yourself, right? Your brain and your body and your desire and your knowledge have to all get together and be able to move forward. And that's one of the most amazing parts about working with a coach, is that you can go farther faster in this way that's like they know where you are. They can see you differently, and you get the benefit of an outside viewpoint that isn't just anybody's viewpoint, right? It's not like going home and asking your spouse, what do you think of this, right? But somebody who actually knows what you're doing and how you're doing it and why you're doing it and what you're trying to accomplish and what it's like to run a company like that. The most important thing you can do for yourself to get from where you are to where you're trying to go in terms of bringing your company to the next level is to make a commitment to seeing your company as an integrated, I call it the triple helix, right? As an integrated unit, so that it's like DNA, 3 strands, right? So that you really see your company as you, your staff, and your systems, and then commit to learning what you need to learn to get to the next level on all 3 fronts, and to integrating that into you and into your staff and into your systems, into your company.